welcome Ambassador Chutintorn Gunsakti, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Thailand. Please give him a nice round of applause to welcome him. Welcome.
Hi.
Please, thank you for joining us. Ambassador Sam, we're honored to have you here. So you're kicking us off at an interesting time. We are at a crossroads globally and in Southeast Asia. Can you give us a sense of the significance of sustainability to the government's approach?
Okay. When you said we're in interesting times, I thought you were referring to the censure motion, in our parliament that's going on today.
It's always interesting times in politics, right?
But that's also the reason why I have to apologize that my foreign minister cannot be with all of you this morning, because the session starts at 8. We had the first day yesterday, today's the second day, and voting tomorrow. Should be okay, they have the majority. Usually with these things, unless something unexpected comes up that the public didn't know about before, that's how things can get derailed. But in terms of numbers and so on, I don't think conference attendees will be sending back messages, hey, I met the new prime minister and the old one, something like that. But we do live in interesting times, and what you said in your outlook that you gave is I can identify with that. I have a 32-year-old daughter, and I'm 62. I've seen, everyone has seen how the world has changed, during their time, and it's more challenging. Those that are born today will not see what we saw before, but we know, because we've been around longer, and then you can worry about the future for your family, your siblings and their siblings and so on. But what we have to do is we have to do something today, and it's not enough, to say, well, I elected this government and I expect them to solve everything for us, because it's everyone. When you look around and there are things that can be done better, there's rubbish, there's not good enough recycling and so on and so forth, then that's something for everyone. But I try to understand the whole equation so that, why won't they take my paper, for recycling? Because it's not worth it, for the vendor, and that kind of thing. So you have to make the equation work, or we have to go online or something like that, because it's not enough that you take your action and then you say, I've done my thing.
We have to work together.
So what if the rest of the world doesn't do it?
Well, you make a good point. Obviously, your perch is at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. What is the role of cooperation when we think about, in particular, when we talk about climate action or sustainability issues? No man is an island, John Donne wrote 5 centuries ago, and certainly no country is alone when it comes to thinking about climate action. But we seem to be at an era where, whether it's tariffs and trade wars, or whether it's with climate change, another era, we may see a bifurcation, or maybe in a multipolar world. Give us a quick perspective of where Thailand sees the role of cooperation.
But we've been there before,
Tell me,
when I was studying, the phrase is beggar thy neighbor. So who cares, as long as I'm okay. We'll put up the tariffs, protect my country, my market, and so on and so forth. But it's a downward spiral. And then the other one is, I was at a Financing for Development conference in UN in Nairobi, when they agreed, on the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's kind of a very innocent kind of way of thinking, but my God, the whole world agrees on these goals. How powerful is that? And so don't belittle yourself, we need everyone. Let's say if this is the world, we need everyone in this room to walk together towards the same goals and so on. And that's what we're trying to do. And in terms of Thailand, having to sit in on my sit in for my foreign minister, I did some reflection. Our country, Thailand, is much better than before, but there's still a lot to do. I mean, for the younger generation, they think of the environment, they think responsibly, like, this is me, this is what I create, where does this go, and so on and so forth. We think a lot more. It used to be, and in a lot of places it's still like that. But if we get to the stage where I pick up that rubbish,
Right.
yeah, even I don't care who, then because it's better, but there's more to do everywhere. But then for some countries, the priority for them is feeding people or education and so on. Then they think that environment becomes a luxury, but it's not. It can be done together. It doesn't cost a lot of money to put the right frame of mind,
Sure.
into people. And
You said this isn't the first time we've seen this, and of course you're right. We know the first time President Trump was elected, he pulled the U.S. out of the international accords on climate. George W. Bush did the same with the Kyoto Protocol when he came into office. So we've seen this on again, off again approach to global climate change negotiations and treaties. What has been Thailand's approach to dealing with some of the uncertainties of the global approach? Do you look to regionalism? Is it ASEAN, or do you said don't go it alone? So give us a sense.
Sure.
How you think about this.
First, I have to ask you that in your job and also being close to Mr. Trump physically, geographically.
Let's be very clear.
Not
physically,
not like that, but
not
because
in other
he lives
ways,
in New York,
Yeah.
Do you think if we gave you $1 million, to work out Mr. Trump, this is the manual for Mr. Trump.
Right.
Would you be able to do it? I mean, would it be a good?
I think even Mr. Trump doesn't know what Mr. Trump will do tomorrow.
Yeah. That's good. No, because I will unashamedly say that I used to be a fan of The Apprentice.
Okay.
And if I see him, I will still mention that, and then I also want to buy one of the Sharpie pens,
Yeah.
$2 something that he has, But we're still working it out, for us. But I know he's America first, yeah.
Sure.
He's economically driven. He's an economic animal, and most of us are. But what we're trying to do here is not just to be economic animals. There's more beyond the bigger cake. A bigger cake in a poisonous environment is no good. I mean, have you seen how some people live in the world? Even though we're in a comfortable room like this, if it comes on screen, it should make us stop and think, and that's what we're about to do. Now, in diplomacy, first thing is dialogue, and I think everyone is trying to get a dialogue with our U.S. counterparts. We have the 11th largest surplus with the U.S. We're still waiting. Okay, so this in itself is you make it up as you go along. I mean, why, and so on. But we're waiting for 2nd April as well. And so I'm supposed.
On April 2nd, the tariff deadline, the word out of Washington is 15 countries will be targeted. You're number 11.
I think we're in. We're in.
That's a dicey spot to be in.
But the thing is, if Mr. Trump is a capitalist, which he is, we know that tariffs hurt not just the ones they're imposed on, right?
Right.
And if we have the 11th largest surplus, they must be wanting something that we send, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure we're not sending things that they will just put in the recycling bin, right? Just for fun because we like Thailand or something like that. So, it's something that but what frustrates people in this job is we don't get a chance to talk.
Right.
And so we're sort of sitting there trying to guess, the exam questions and come up with a toolbox, but we know he likes money. So that's good. You know what I mean? It simplifies things.
He's very transactional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But listen, just for the record, our readers will know The Economist is stoutly defending globalization. We were founded
Me.
to fight for free trade, to fight against protectionism or the British Corn Laws, agricultural protectionism, and we continue to fly the flag. And so we do believe that these tariff wars risk becoming much, much more dangerous, could tip the world into recession, and much worse than that, set in place many years or longer of permanent tariffs. And so this is something quite serious.
Yeah. But then, we don't depend on just one market, right? And then we try to make other markets, regional markets, like you were saying, sub-regional cooperation and so on and so forth. If you bring it back to the environment, so we are surrounded by other countries. We have problems from slash and burn. We have problems with managing water, but slash and burn is a big one. And we can't go and just instruct people to do this and that.
Right.
I've attended meetings where I have an idea which will be good for you, yeah? And I wanted to be helpful to you, and I proposed it, and I read your body language, and I know that he doesn't get it. So it's not their time, because we all have different experiences. You've been through things that others have not been through. So that's why things cannot be done all across the world in one go, Or that's why the WTO that I've declared love for the WTO before, World Trade Organization. Now it doesn't work for me because, US doesn't subscribe to the dispute settlement. Before, what that gave us is if we didn't like something that they did, we think it's wrong by what we have agreed, we take them to dispute settlement. And the first case we won, how empowering that is. But now, whatever happens, we go back, turn the clock back, it'll be because you're bigger than me.
Yeah.
You have deeper pockets. We'll see who can outlast,
You make a good point. The WTO obviously has fallen on hard times, but again, to bring it to the topic of environment, sustainability, climate, not only can no country act alone in a way that it leads to the free rider problem, and beggar thy neighbor, as you called it, but coalitions might be a way to respond. In an age where you do see countries heading off in one direction, we can see coalitions of the willing, or regional groupings like ASEAN, providing a counterweight. I can remember because I covered the creation of the NAFTA treaty, the North American Free Trade Deal. The Canadian Prime Minister at the time made the remark that when you get into bed with an elephant, it's good to have friends. And so if you're dealing with an elephant, it's perhaps helpful to have a counterweight of like-minded countries that you can deal with. Maybe it's Europe, maybe it's China, depending on the issue, maybe it's fellow ASEAN countries.
But then since these leaders were not around, at least most of them in the 1930s, or they're unlikely to be persuaded to read economic history books, we run the risk of going through the whole episode again,
Yeah, that is the danger. Return to Smoot-Hawley and the tariff wars.
I sense that countries still have in the back of their minds that they may be able to strike their own deal with the U.S. So when we go, when to see the Americans, it'll be each one of us individually, and it will not be the immediate thought will not be, okay, let's have a side meeting outside, But thank you for mentioning that, because that's something that I will tell our team that that's another preparation that we can do, right? Because you can't, one-on-one. It's like super flyweight with one of your, what's his name? The biggest world champ, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, boxing champ, yeah?
Yes.
So we're just out of time, but I want to thank you for joining us. We encourage you to pursue keep the good fight, as we say. And I hope when you go back, you don't hear from the Trumps of Thailand, you're fired.
No. Okay, can I just have the last word?
Last word, please.
I did fail to talk about the environment, But so we did talk about the environment in a very loose way. But Thailand has moved on, from those days. It comes with when you have enough, you know, you didn't have anything to eat, you have enough, then you start thinking of your well-being and the well-being of those behind you. So we do have, you know, initiatives. We're very serious about our climate commitments, and we have policy initiatives, you know, that will be coming up. They'll be probably talking about it during the week. And so watch out. And we try to pass this on to our neighbors as well, you know, to our neighbors in other countries. But every country has their own clock. And we should never be condescending, you know, and go to see people and say, hi, here's what you need to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, they'll say bye-bye. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good week.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sam.